It is a great day to be a fan of the New York Jets. Yes, it is, Jet fans. Today is a great day to be a fan of the Jets. That is not something we have been able to say very often, but in this video, I plan to explain why. Welcome in, everyone. This is the Jake Asman Show. I appreciate all of you who are joining us today on the channel. If you're new to the channel, I ask that you help us out and support the channel by hitting the subscribe button right over there. Click that red subscribe button. That really helps this page continue to grow. Also, if you're already subscribed, one, thank you. And two, do me a favor, please like this video right down below. It's free to like. It's very easy. It takes you 2 seconds to click the thumbs up icon down below. Thank you, thank you, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. In today's video, I'm going to talk about why it is actually a great time to be a fan of the New York Jets, specifically as I record this on a Tuesday morning, Tuesday, November 30th, 2021. I could sit here and tell you that the Jets are in excellent position going forward as an organization. Right now, as things currently stand, the Jets own the 4th and the 5th pick in the 2022 NFL draft. That is because the Jets continue to win the Jamal Adams trade. They continue to benefit from one of the dumbest trades the Seattle Seahawks have really ever made in the history of the NFL. That is not hyperbole. It was a bad move at the time, but at the time, if Seattle could justify the deal by going out there and winning a Super Bowl, or at least getting to a Super Bowl, I think you would understand it. They felt like they were a Jamal Adams away from being a championship team. Now, it was foolish at the time because they weren't, but it was even more foolish because you never trade 2 first-round picks for a safety. Jamal Adams is a very good player. All right, as much as I don't like him now as a Jet fan, no one can deny that Jamal's a really good player, but he's a safety. All right, he plays a non-premium position, and he's not good in coverage. So this is a guy that is a box safety that obviously is good at what he does, rushing the quarterback, but he's limited in other areas of his game. So not only did Joe Douglas realize, hey, the 2020 Jets were going to be bad with or without Jamal Adams, but then Jamal started running his mouth, started taking shots at the organization, basically did everything in his power to force a trade. The fact that the Jets were able to turn him into 2 first-round picks is nothing short of extraordinary. And it's not just the picks, Jet fans. That's obviously the crux of the deal. But if the Jets had kept Jamal Adams, they would have to have paid him more money than any safety in the history of the NFL. Jamal Adams is making like $18 million to play on a Seahawks team that right now has the same exact record as the New York Jets. Who saw that coming? The Jets 3-8, Seattle 3-8. And it's remarkable when you think how this is potentially going to play out for the Jets, where the Jets pick, their own pick, might be higher than the Seattle pick because Seattle continues to struggle. I mean, Russell Wilson does not look right now. I mean, he did not play well in this game on Monday Night Football. Thank you, Washington football team. But right now, Seattle's pick is the Jets' 4th overall pick, and the Jets' own pick, based on strength of schedule, is the 5th pick. So the Jets might actually have a better pick from Seattle, not the other way around, which is just unbelievable to fathom here. So, I wanted to do this video just to highlight the plan that's in place by the New York Jets. You look at the Jets right now, and it's not just the Adams trade, although that is obviously the headliner. Right now, the Jets have 4 draft picks in the top 41 of the 2022 NFL draft. 4. Why? Well, because they got Sam Darnold traded for a 2nd rounder, which is nuts. And with Carolina continuing to lose games, there's a chance the Jets could end up having 4 picks in the top 45, maybe 4 picks in the top 40, the way things continue to play out. So the Jamal Adams trade at the time was great because you got 2 first-round picks for a guy that was not going to help you win that many games in 2020. The Jets could have gone 2-14 with or without Jamal Adams last year, as long as Adam Gase was the coach and Sam Darnold was the quarterback. So the reality is it was a great deal at the time, but now we're talking about a Jets team that could potentially have 2 picks in the top 5. Now, I'll be realistic here. I think when it's all said and done, Seattle will win a couple more games. I've been very outspoken on this show that I don't think the Jets are going to end up with just 2 or 3 wins. They're now at 3 wins, which all the people are the Jets are going to go 2-15. Where you at now? Because they just won a game this past Sunday right here in Houston. Because that was always a bunch of nonsense that they were going to finish 2-15. And I think the Jets will probably win at least 1, maybe 2 more games down the stretch. So I'm thinking the Jets pick will probably end up being in the 5, 6, 7 range. And then the Seattle pick, depending on what they do, could probably be cracking the top 10. So maybe he doesn't stay 4 and 5, but you never know, especially when Seattle keeps losing. You're hearing some rumblings about Russell Wilson's unhappiness. How about this for a scenario? Jamal Adams forced a trade out of New York because there weren't enough dogs. Remember that? The Jets needed some more dogs in the locker room. Well, so he goes to Seattle. They make the playoffs last year. They lose in the wild card round at home to Jared Goff with 1 thumb in the Rams, right? Since then, all they've done is gone out there and have gotten off to a 3-8 start. So the scenario I'm seeing unfolding here is Russell Wilson's going to want out. Right, he's unhappy with the organization. Things have maybe run its course there. So how funny is it going to be when Jamal is stuck in Seattle without a quarterback? Because I think that could happen. Pete Carroll's getting up there in age. Maybe he just retires, is some rumblings that I'm hearing. So you're talking about an organization that is in an absolute free-for-all, whereas the Jets have a long-term plan to hopefully set them up for success. 7 picks in the first 4 rounds, and this all was started by Joe Douglas realizing Jamal Adams, good player, not worth the headache, not worth $18 million a year. And if I could get 2 1s and a third for the guy, I'm doing that every time. And to those that will, I'm sure, comment, Seattle Seahawks fans who are bitter, other people who love to just make fun of the Jets because it's easy. The thing I'd say is this. Oh, well, don't tell me that the Jets are just going to draft bust because that's what they always do. Jamal Adams in that trade has already paid off for the Jets in that they already turned one of those first-round picks into Elijah Vera Tucker, who's been one of the best rookies in the NFL this year. He's well on his way to being a perennial Pro Bowl left guard on this team. So the fact that they used one of those first-round picks to trade up and then obviously, get Elijah Vera Tucker from the Vikings in that deal, the fact that you already have him locked in, Vera Tucker plays a more important position than Adams. Like, I'd rather have a really good left guard than a box safety who can't cover. So, that's already been a huge benefit of the trade. And then you factor in, the likelihood that this pick is going to be in the top 10, even if it doesn't end up being number 4, which is where it is right now for Seattle. If the Jets can end up with a pick in the top 10 from this Adams trade, the options for the Jets here are limitless in what they could do. Limitless. They could trade out and get another future first-round pick again. They could trade up depending on where it is. If there's a player they really fall in love with, they did it with AVT. So why can't they do it this year in the 2022 NFL draft? Or they could just take a stud player in the top 10, right? The Jets could go out there and, they could draft Derek Stingley Jr. with the Seattle pick or their own pick. They could move back and they could get another offensive lineman. They could take a stud wide receiver. They could go out there and potentially take an edge rusher depending on where the board kind of falls for them, right? The thing with this draft is that it's not a huge quarterback draft. So we're not going to have the run on quarterbacks like what we saw last year. I still think guys will get pushed up higher than they normally should just because of the circumstance that happens here. But you're talking about Pickett, Corral, Sam Howell, those are maybe the 3 guys that could go in the first round. And a lot of these mock drafts, none of them are even going in the top 5 right now. So maybe that changes in the pre-draft process. The Jet fan, when we get there, should be rooting for teams to take as many quarterbacks as possible and want to move up and get those guys, because then that pushes really good players further down the board. Could you imagine if the Jets somehow ended up with Aiden Hutchinson or Kayvon Thibodeau from Oregon? You add one of those stud, can't-miss edge rushers to this line with Carl Lawson coming back and Quinn Williams and John Franklin Myers. I mean, you talk about a Jets defense that would be ferocious. The possibilities are endless for this team. There's taking good players with your own picks and the Seattle pick. There's trading back. There's trading up. This all was put into motion, though, because Jamal Adams wanted out. He wanted to be a diva and get his money. And the Jets said, we're not going to pay you $18 million when you're still under contract for another 2 seasons. It never made any sense to pay Jamal what he wanted. He was not being reasonable. Then he trashed the organization, trashed the fan base, had the audacity to say that he was dealing with mental health issues because of all the losing. Like, come on, man. Mental health is not something you should be joking around about. And he used that as a legitimate excuse, which I know irked a ton of Jet fans. So I couldn't be happier that it's played out this way. We'll see where the picks end up being, right? Once again, I'll pull up the Seattle schedule here. They have games against the Niners, the Texans, the Rams, the Bears, the Lions, and the Cardinals. So I'm thinking that they're probably going to win at least 2 of those games, right? Like, they should be able to beat the Texans and certainly the Lions. So maybe the Seattle pick doesn't end up being in the top 4, but it's still probably going to be closer to the top 10. I think it's more likely that it's inside of the top 10. So, I mean, this trade could not have gone any better for the Jets. They've already hit on one of the first round picks, so you could shove it. Any Seattle fans, they're like, well, they're just going to draft the bust. AVT is not a bust. We've already seen him play really well. So the Jets are set up here. Obviously, we need to see more from Zach Wilson. We need him to play well down the stretch, and they got to help Zach Wilson, maximize his talent. But this roster is going to be infinitely better going forward. And a lot of it will have to do with the fact that they traded away a box safety who can't cover and now potentially could have, as of right now, 2 top 5 picks. But I'll be realistic. I think it's probably going to be closer to 2 top 10 picks when it's all said and done. With that being said, I want to ask that if you're new to the channel, you do me a favor and you hit the subscribe button on the right-hand side of your screen. You also could like this video by hitting the like button right down below. Before we go to some Q&A, and I ask right now that if you have any questions or comments, you submit those in the chat box, and we'll answer some of those questions. I do want to tell you about Manscaped, because support for the Jake Asman Show is presented by Manscaped. Manscaped is the best men's below-the-waist grooming, and Manscaped right now is offering up the Lawnmower 4.0. It's brand new. They're up to the 4.0. And by supporting the Jake Asman Show, if you go to manscaped.com and use the promo code ASMAN, it's just my last name, ASMAN, you'll get 20% off and free worldwide shipping with, once again, my promo code ASMAN. So, I mean, Manscaped, you've heard the ads before if you've listened to the show. They do a phenomenal job, man. I mean, take care of those family jewels. We can make all the jokes in the world, but all the men who watch the show, you got to have the top-notch stuff for the below-the-waist grooming, right? So manscaped.com, promo code ASMAN, you'll get 20% off and free shipping on the Lawnmower 4.0. With that being said, let's see what you guys are thinking here. Let's see how we're feeling following a Washington football team victory over the Seattle Seahawks. You send them to 3-8, which is the exact same record that the New York Jets have. James wants to pile up the picks, build the wall. In Joe, we trust. Yeah, let's hope so, man. Let's hope so. I love this from Girth Brooks. #love. Yeah, how's Jamal Adams going to feel when he goes out there and he has no quarterback around him next year and his team's going to be out of the playoffs just like the Jets are this year? It's just the irony here is just fantastic. I figured the Jets picks in the Adams trade when they first made it would be in the 20s in both years. Right, last year was pick 23. I mean, this year, potentially top 5, more likely top 10. I'll be fair, but my God, what a deal. What a deal. And obviously, we can't just say, oh, well, Russell Wilson got hurt. What do you expect? Russell Wilson's been back now for 3 games, and they've lost each game. He hasn't been good. Russell Wilson's lost 4 straight games when he started for the Seattle Seahawks, including 3 since coming back from the injury. So that can't be the only excuse. The reality is Seattle does not have that good of a team. They have probably a mediocre to below average roster with a Hall of Fame quarterback that would elevate everything. And now we're seeing this team be completely exposed this year. Let's see. Mike writes in, the Jamal Adams trade is the gift that keeps on giving. Happy Hanukkah. Yes, to all those in the Jewish faith, the Adams trade is once again another early Hanukkah gift. Shane W. writes in, Jake is the new Joe Beningo, voice of the fans. Look, Joe Beningo's the GOAT. Nobody could be Joe B. I love Joe B, and I'm working on getting Joe on this YouTube channel. I used to work at the Fan as a producer and have a relationship with Joe, so working on it. But if you guys know Joe Beningo, he doesn't exactly use technology all that well. He still has a flip phone, and his wife handles his emails. So trying to get a hold of Joe B is not the easiest thing in the world, but I promise we're working on getting Joe Beningo to join us on this channel. I might wait till the offseason where Joe might be in a more positive mood, because as we all know, Joe is not exactly thrilled with the state of the Jets currently, but I think things are going to finally turn for this team. Everson writes in, the local New York radio shows killed JD for this trade when it happened, and they're still not giving him the credit he deserves. JD deserves a little criticism. Look, I think you mean JD deserves credit. You could criticize Joe Douglas. I certainly have. He hasn't hit on every draft pick. His free agent signings have not been the best. We can't deny, though, all the trades that he's made for the Jets have been slam dunks. Adams, Darnold, Leonard Williams, Chris Herndon going for a fourth-round pick, even getting Laurent Duvernay-Tardif for Daniel Brown, who got cut by the Chiefs. Tardif's been a pretty solid right guard addition for the offensive line. He's graded out really well in the run game. I don't think it's a coincidence that the Jets have run the ball effectively these last couple games since they've gone out there and they obviously benched Greg Van Roten for Tardif on the right side of the offensive line. I think Joe Douglas is a good GM. Is he a great GM? We don't know yet. A lot of that will be determined by Zach Wilson. Let's be real. And a lot of that will be determined by Robert Saleh, what he is as an NFL head coach, because Joe Douglas hired him and they're all on the same timeline. I think what we could say, though, is Joe Douglas is by far and away the best GM that the Jets have had in the last decade. He's already hit on more picks than McCagnon and Izek did combined. Now, I understand that's not saying much, but when you look at the Jets and the reason why they've missed the playoffs longer than any team in the NFL currently right now, that's because their drafting has been as piss poor as possible. They've taken guys like Ja'Kai Polite and Christian Hackenberg. They've gone out there and they've missed on Darren Lee. They've gone out there and they've missed on so many guys. I don't feel like revisiting this because we all know, if you follow the Jets like I do, how bad the drafting's been. Douglas has done a good job. Mekhi Becton's a good pick. He just has to go out there and play, obviously, but I'm not down on him. Bryce Hall looks like a really good pick for this team. 2021's draft class with Elijah Moore, Vera Tucker, and Michael Carter looks like a slam dunk. There are pieces on this team. The issue for the Jets is they haven't been able to stack back-to-back-to-back-to-back draft classes, which is how you build the foundation of your team. And ideally, Jets ownership, Woody and Chris, get out of the way and just be patient and let Joe Douglas do what he has to do. That's why he has a 6-year contract, and that's why he obviously, has gone out there and has put the Jets in position to have 7 picks in the first 4 rounds of this year's draft. 2 1s, 2 2s, and 2 4s. Like, that's outstanding. The Jets are set up for success as long as Joe Douglas continues to hit on the picks. And there's always, an if with that, no doubt. But Joe Douglas is the best chance the Jet fan has at success long-term, because we've at least seen the writing in the wall that he knows what he's doing. And also, to those that are down on Zach Wilson, he's played 6 full games, and Joe Douglas was the one who picked him. So let's give JD the benefit of the doubt here. Let's give Zach the benefit of the doubt and hope that over these 6 games coming up, Zach Wilson could go out there and play really well, just like Elijah Moore has and Michael Carter and AVT. All those guys got off the slow starts. And Zach's playing quarterback. It's the hardest position to play in all of sports. And he's coming off injury. So just let's be a little more patient with Zach. If he keeps having games like what he did against the Texans down the stretch, okay, I think we can open it up to a little more criticism. But I'm just not there at this point right now. I think there's got to be more patience shown for this quarterback. LT writes in, JD should be arrested for robbing these teams. Douglas has done an extraordinary job. His trades have been phenomenal. It's really just insane. Jets Forever writes in, 2 firsts, a third, and a player for a box safety. Insane compensation. And it's funny because people think that I talk about Jamal Adams and I think he's a bad player. I've never said that. Jamal Adams is a very good player, but he plays a non-premium position. That's always been my argument. He's a box safety. I love Jamal Adams, man. I got to meet him in person. He came on my radio show at Super Bowl Radio Row in Atlanta. And I was a big Jamal Adams fan, but the way he trashed the organization, the way he trashed the fan base, the way he acted trying to get a new deal, it was time to move on. And the Jets were going to suck with or without him last year. So getting 2 1s and a third for that type of player is insane. And it's incredible that the Jets were the team that made that move. Let's see what we got here. A lot of you guys want pass rusher and corner with the first 2 picks. Adam wants a top offensive lineman and an edge. Look, my philosophy on the draft is this: premium positions when you're picking that high. If you're picking in the teens, if you're picking in the 20s, then you could take, the wide receiver. Then you could take, the safety, the linebacker. But when you're picking in the top 5, like let's operate under the assumption for right now, the Jets will have 2 top 5 picks. I think by the time the draft comes, it's probably more likely they have a pick in the top 5 and a pick that's probably in the 8, 9, 10 range. But let's say for the sake of this conversation, it's 2 picks in the top 5. I want only premium positions when you're picking that high. Like I want edge. So give me Aiden Hutchinson or Thibodeau if they somehow slide. I want corner. That's a premium position. Jet fans, we all realize what a dominant corner could do for a defense. And obviously offensive line, right? Tackle. Give me Evan Neal. I wouldn't even be against Spencer Lindenbaum. And Dane Brugler's first mock draft, he has Lindenbaum going in the top 6, I believe. So if the Jets take Lindenbaum at 5 or 6, I'd be all about that. Like get a stud center. If you can get a dominant offensive lineman, to me, it doesn't really matter where you take them. Like you think the Colts regret taking Quentin Nelson 6th overall? Of course not. So premium positions, O-line, edge, corner. That's what I'd be looking at if I'm the Jets, talking about specifically picks in the top 5 range. Drew writes in, don't you think Douglas and Saleh deserve at least 3 to 4 years to work together before we talk about getting rid of them? Look, I don't know if you'll get 3 to 4 years, Drew, if this team continues to struggle. Like if the Jets are 3-8, let's say a year from now, I would say things would be a lot different as far as the discourse and the conversation about this team. Because if they're 3-8 a year from now, that probably means Wilson's not good. And that probably means that this draft class and free agent class coming up have not translated to wins if they're 3-8 a year from now. So I would say as long as there's, significant progress at this time a year from now, yeah, Douglas and Saleh deserve to ride it out. Like they're attached at the hip. That was my biggest complaint with the Tannenbaum Rex departure, where Tannenbaum gets fired, Rex stays. Izek comes in. He's trying to rebuild the franchise and tear it down. Rex is trying to win to save his job, not on the same timeline. Then you have Christopher Johnson, the biggest moron ever, firing Todd Bowles and keeping Mike Maccagnan, only to then fire Maccagnan in June after he spent the money in free agency and made all the draft picks. So that basically wasted the 2020 season for the Jets. Complete waste because Joe Douglas couldn't tear it down in 2019. It took till 2020, and that set the Jets back. So as long as progress is being shown, yeah, I think Joe Douglas needs to ride this out. He's got all these picks for a reason. He's earned the opportunity. He's earned the right to use those picks. And Robert Saleh, I think, has done a decent job so far this year. Has it been perfect? No, but let's see how they play out the stretch. It's been encouraging to see the last couple weeks how the defense has played. They have not been the worst in the league like they had been during that stretch where everyone was scoring 45-plus points on them. So patience is key. Progress is key. I think Douglas and Saleh certainly deserve the benefit of the doubt and more time here. All right, let's see what we are thinking here. JD sticking to the process, no doubt. Adam thinks in 2 years the Jets will be Super Bowl contenders and Seattle will be rebuilding. If Seattle trades Russell Wilson, which I think is possible because Pete Carroll might retire and Russell Wilson might want out, I mean, you're going to be talking about the Seattle Seahawks as the new New York Jets, which is pretty funny. Jamal Adams basically got traded to the Jets all over again. And I see Everson is on the same page with me there saying the same thing. Couldn't agree more. Seattle's disaster is the Jets' success. Christopher writes in, Happy Hanukkah. Happy Hanukkah to all those who celebrate, of course. Jason writes in, Joe Flacco was not a good trade. It's a 6th-round pick. Is it ideal? No. I'm not going to have like the fake outrage like I've seen from the New York media over a 6th-round pick. Like I kind of agree with Robert Saleh. 6th-round pick, who cares? Especially when you're the Jets and you have 7 picks in the first 4 rounds. Did I love the Flacco trade? No. Would I have started Mike White against the Dolphins last week? Yes. There's too many things with the Jets to be angry about. I'm just not going to give you the fake outrage over that one. Jibri writes in, how much does having an injured Carl Lawson affect us drafting an edge in the first round? I don't think it impacts anything. I think if the Jets are picking that high, they'll take an edge if that's the best player on the board. It's a premium position. You can never have enough good pass rushers. Like that's just how you build a defense in the NFL, right? The Jets could scheme their secondary. They have Bryce Hall, they have Javelin Guidry, they have Michael Carter. They have some guys in that secondary that aren't bad, and Hall, I think, is really good. So if you add Lawson to a defense with potentially Franklin Myers and Quinn Williams, and then obviously if you go out there and draft someone that's a stud edge in the first round, like your defense should be in the top 10 automatically next year if guys stay healthy. So I don't think the loss and injury impacts things. I also don't think, though, the Jets are going to be in the Thibodeau or Aiden Hutchinson range unless Seattle keeps losing, which, I mean, you can't rule it out. I think the Jets are going to win enough games here where they're picking 5 and beyond in the first round. And I can't see Hutchinson or Thibodeau getting past the Lions and Texans back-to-back to start the draft. Let's see what you guys are thinking here. Our guy V-Man writes in. V-Man, thanks so much, as always, for the contribution to this channel. I never ask for money from you guys, but I really appreciate the donation to the channel. Thanks so much for the support. V-Man writes in, isn't it fun to be on the other side of the punching bag for a change? Enjoying the Shadowbird of the Seahawks fans is amazing. Their attempts at shade fell. Look, let me tell you, it's nice that the Jets clearly have won a trade and no one can defend it. Like, no one can defend the other side. Like, the Adams trade was bad at the time. And it looks even worse now. Especially when you can't say, well, the Jets are just going to draft a bust with those picks. No, AVT's already here. AVT's already here and playing really well on this offensive line. So, I mean, even if, like I don't think the second pick this year will be a bust that they got in the trade. But even if that player doesn't work out, would you rather have Elijah Vera Tucker or Jamal Adams? I probably would take Elijah Vera Tucker. I value the guard spot on the offensive line more than I value the box safety who can't cover. That's just how I look at it. Benji writes, or Benji just donated to the channel. Thanks so much, Benji. I really appreciate the support. Kevin writes in, Lawson and Hutchinson. Good Lord. I think that would be incredible. I just don't think Hutchinson's going to make it to the Jets. Chris thinks the Jets will win 5 of the next 6. I don't think that will happen, Chris, but I'd welcome it. Winning games is not a bad thing. It's just not, right? The Jets have been bad for so long. Winning games, developing young players, Zach Wilson playing well, winning games is a good thing, not a bad thing. I do not care about the draft picks. If you're a good general manager, you'll be able to hit on any draft pick, regardless of what position you're drafting in, right? It's just J.J. Watt was the 11th overall pick, all right? Like, there are guys every year that slide that shouldn't. If you're a good GM, you'll find talent. I'm not worried about where the Jets end up. Ideally, Seattle keeps losing, and you still end up with that top 5 pick, even if the Jets win some games here down the stretch like I expect them to. I don't think they'll win 5 out of 6, but look at the Jets' upcoming schedule. Eagles might be without Jalen Hurts. Saints, I mean, Taysom Hill or Trevor Siemian, that's a winnable game. Miami, certainly a winnable game. Jacksonville, they stink. That's a winnable game. There's winnable games for the Jets here. They're not going to finish 3-14. I think the Jets are going to win some games. John writes in, love the show. Appreciate it, John. Thanks so much for watching the show. Everson wants Hutchinson and Lindenbaum with the first 2 picks. I'd love that too. I don't think Hutchinson's going to be there. There's a chance Hutchinson goes number 1 now based on what he did against Ohio State and the fact that the Lions, who play in Detroit, in Michigan, they might be inclined to draft the hometown kid over drafting the kid from Oregon. I don't want to sit here and tell you that should impact their draft process, but I think it's human nature to want to appease your fan base and get the guy that played at Michigan. A lot of Lions fans obviously watch Hutchinson. I think there's a chance Hutchinson goes number 1, which could make Thibodeau become a Texan number 2. Jack Hall can't wait for the 2022 NFL draft. Hell yeah. Here's another side note about the draft. Have we ever had a year where the top 10's dominated by 3 teams? The order as it currently stands right now is Seattle's 4, but the Jets have that pick, obviously. That's the best part. Seattle's pick is better than the Jets pick currently. Who saw that one coming? Seattle right now is pick 4. The Jets are pick 5. Obviously, the Jets own both those picks. Then the Giants have their own pick at 6. They own the Bears pick at 7. Eagles at 8 with their own pick. Miami is at 9, but their pick is the Eagles pick now. So the Jets, Giants, and Eagles own picks 4 through 9 in the NFL draft. That's insane that 3 teams are going to dominate the top 10 like that. Who saw that one coming? Let's see. Adam writes in, our top 7 picks are in the top 114. Most teams have 7 in the 250 or so. Amazing. Yeah, specifically, I mentioned this earlier for those just tuning in. It's not just the Adams trade. Obviously, that's the headliner of this video, and that's the trade for the Jets. But think about this for a moment. The Jets right now, because of the Darnold trade, have 4 picks in the top 41. They have the 2 first-round picks, one Seattle, one's their own, and they have their own second-round pick, and they have Carolina's second-round pick, which right now is 41st overall. And I got news for you. Carolina's not that good, and Christian McCaffrey's now done for the year. Cam Newton looks shot. They're going to lose games here. So that pick is going to be pretty good for the Jets as well early on in the second round. I'm going to continue to read some comments here. Thanks to everyone who's taking the time to watch the show live. Benji writes in, would you be opposed to pick Neal in Lindenbaum? Best line in the league. I would not be opposed to doing just that. I think, though, it's more likely the Jets probably split the picks, right? They go one offensive player, one defensive player. I'm not against it, though. I'd be all about that. I just think a lot of it, depends on how the board plays out. Also, what's great about the options for the Jets, don't rule out trading back again and getting another first-round pick next year. If a desperate team wants to come up for a quarterback, maybe they don't come up all the way to 1 or 2 because they don't think any of these quarterbacks are worth that. But if the Jets are picking 6, 7, or 8, whether it's their own pick or Seattle's pick, you don't think maybe Washington would move up from like 15 to go get a quarterback? Or you don't think that the Pittsburgh Steelers right now, who currently have the 16th pick, wouldn't want to move up to number 10 to go get their quarterback of the future? Or the Saints at number 13 right now wouldn't want to move up to go and get their quarterback of the future? Like the options are limitless for the Jets. They could take 2 really good players in the top 10. They could trade up if they fall in love with a player that they want because they have the draft capital to make that move. Or they could just settle and move back, still get a good player in the top 15 if someone wants to come up to draft a quarterback. Isn't it nice to have options? Jets have options. They got a plan. Now they got to execute that plan. Let's see. Chris wants a tight end. Yes, the Jets, I think, certainly need to address tight end either in free agency or in the draft. I'd prefer free agency. I want more of a sure thing at that position. I'd spend a little money to go and get Zach Wilson a tight end that he could check the ball down to underneath. I think that will really help in his development. Vinny in the Jets goes, would you rather the Jets draft the best kicker in the country or pay someone established? Amendola sucks. I think kicker's a big need. Now, you're not going to use like a mid-round pick on a kicker, but I think the Jets need to invest in that position, man. Amendola is not good. He's not the answer. I think you got to invest in that position, no doubt about that. Chris writes in, Zach's fine. He's 22, played only 7 games. Give the kid some time to settle in. We all need to calm down and trust the process. Our time is coming. I agree that Zach has only played 7 games. He's only played 6 full games, and the Jets have gone 2-4 in those games. He's 22. Zach Wilson is not the first rookie quarterback to struggle in their first 7 starts. He's not the first rookie quarterback to struggle in his first 6 games. And it's not like he hasn't shown you the ability here. Like Zach Wilson's game against the Titans was legit. His second half against the Carolina Panthers was legit. Does he need to clean things up? Does he need to get the ball out quicker? Does he need to hit the easy throws? Yes. Do I think he can learn this stuff? I do. Even if Zach Wilson was playing great right now, I wouldn't anoint him as the next great quarterback in the history of the Jets or in the history of the NFL. These things take time. These guys aren't finished products coming out of college and playing in the NFL right away. For every like Justin Herbert, there's Peyton Manning as a rookie, or Troy Aikman as a rookie, or Josh Allen as a rookie. Like, this takes time, man. Give Zach Wilson some time. He's coming off injury, and I would expect him to play better as the year now goes on. He's got 6 games left to hopefully go out there and put together some really good performances to make us Jet fans feel a lot better about him going forward. And also, Chris, thank you so much for the generous contribution to the channel. I really appreciate it. Let's see. Jeff writes in, he's hated Seattle since he threw away the Super Bowl, since they threw away to the Super Bowl to the Patriots. When you say they, Jeff, you mean Pete Carroll and Darrell Bevel. Those guys threw away that Super Bowl to the Patriots. I live in the Pacific Northwest, surrounded by Seahawks fans. I'm an old guy who's watched the Jets since 1967 as a fifth grader. Jeff, you're going to get the last laugh up there, my friend, because that trade is going to be maybe the trade that buries the Seattle Seahawks and potentially forces Russell Wilson to want out. I don't think he's sticking around for a rebuild. And you guys watched the game last night. You watched Seattle this year. Do they look like a team that's anywhere close to being a Super Bowl threat? They're clearly the worst team in their own division, a division that has the Cardinals, who are the one seed in the NFC, the Rams, who obviously are still a very good team despite their losing streak. The Niners have come alive here and have won 3 straight games to get back into the playoff mix. Seattle looks clearly like the worst team in their division going forward, and they're not just like a free agency or a draft away from being back in the mix. They're just not. They don't have their first round pick. Thank you, Jamal Adams. And they don't have a ton of cap space either. They're paying Jamal Adams $18 million to not help them win games. That's crazy. Melvin writes in, are the Jets going to re-sign Berrios, Crowder, and Cole? I can't sit here and tell you I have the answer to that, Melvin. I'm not sure. I think there's a chance they bring back Crowder. I think there's a chance they bring back Cole. You're talking about Cole's only on a 1-year deal. Berrios is a guy that has seemingly pretty good chemistry with Zach Wilson. He plays for them on special teams. I don't think he's going to cost a ton to keep. I think it's possible those guys are back. I also think it's possible, maybe only one of those guys is back. Out of those 3, I think Crowder is the most likely to maybe not be back just because I think the Jets maybe want to get a little bigger at the receiver spot, and they have a lot of guys that could play in the slot. They could use Elijah Moore in that slot, even though Moore is dynamic on the outside. You could use Moore all over the field. He is a playmaker, so I'm not sure. I'm not closing the door on any of those guys. I think we got to wait and see how things play out for the Jets. Jesus writes in, or Jesus, one or the other. I'm not quite sure. How do the Jets spend their $50 million next year? I hope they spend it on really good players. I think obviously a lot of that money will be spent defensively, but I would say that the Jets have plenty of options how they're going to spend that money. They need to use free agency to supplement what they eventually end up doing in the draft. Make no mistake about that. Gangrene wants Mike Gesicki to be the tight end the Jets sign. I'd be all about that. I think he's a really good player. John D agrees. Mike Gesicki would be a really good player. Also, Mike Gesicki always kills the Jets. He's a Jet killer. That guy always has good games against the Jets. I don't know how he does against the rest of the league, but he is always playing well against the New York Jets. Kevin writes in, another great thing is that Tua's play right now might keep the Dolphins away from making a run at Deshaun Watson. Yeah, Kevin, this is an interesting one because being down here in Houston, we've been closely following, the Dolphins and the Panthers and Washington and Pittsburgh and the Giants and the Eagles, teams that have draft capital or teams that might be a quarterback away from being a championship caliber team that would be in on Deshaun Watson. Deshaun still wants to go to Miami. Like, I know that for a fact from talking to sources that I have. Deshaun's preference is still the Dolphins. I wonder, though, if things could change in the offseason, if the Eagles finish the year strong and they got all these picks, if the Giants want to make a run at Deshaun Watson because Daniel Jones ain't the answer and Dave Gettleman's out and they need a quick fix at quarterback. They got 2 ones. Washington certainly looks like they might be a quarterback away from being a Super Bowl team. Heineke's been good. I don't know if he's a guy you're winning a championship with, though, right? So it's interesting what will happen with Deshaun and the Dolphins. I'm rooting that he ends up going to a team in the NFC just so as a Jet fan, I no longer have to deal with playing Deshaun Watson. The Art of Pimpin' writes in, what happens if Zach looks bad in the rest of his games? Let's worry about that if it happens. I mean, regardless, he's the quarterback next year, whether people like it or not. They've invested the 2nd overall pick into him, and they're not just going to give up on him after 1 year. I would say that Zach Wilson will definitely get better, though, as the year goes on. I don't expect him to be awful in every game down the stretch. Jesus writes in, does Jeff Ulrich stay next year? I think he probably does. The Jets have preached continuity. They have preached installing their system. They have preached that this is year 1 of a rebuild. You want to have consistency on the coaching staff. It doesn't mean that everyone on the staff is back, but if the Jets finish strong, like I expect them to here, I think there's not going to be that many changes to this coaching staff. I think Saleh is very bought into the guys that he hired. Dean makes a great point. I should have mentioned this in the monologue at the top of the video. Everyone should thank Greg Williams for these picks. Scheming up a bunch of sacks for Jamal, got up his huge value. Yeah, honestly, Greg Williams, the way he used Jamal Adams is the way that Seattle should be using Jamal Adams. Jamal Adams has not been the same player since he left the Jets. Like, that's a fact. This year, Jamal Adams, I mean, he's gone out there and, I mean, he hasn't been that good. Jamal Adams doesn't have a sack this year for the Seahawks. I mean, last year, at least he had 9.5 sacks. With the Jets in 2019, he had 6.5. I mean, they're not using him the way they used him with the Jets, where he'd blitz coming off the edge. Jets Forever thinks we could draft tight ends that are better than Kaseki. Look, investing at that spot is important, whether it's high in the draft, like in the second round, I'd be comfortable doing that, or if it's if it's free agency as well. Sneakers to Boot says the Jets staff will be here for at least 3 years. I hope. That means things are going pretty well if the Jets staff that's here at least 3 years. Contrary to popular belief, the Jets actually have been pretty patient with head coaches. Like, people don't want to admit that because, it's the Jets, dysfunction, make fun of them. Like, Herm Edwards had plenty of time here. Mangini only got 3 years, which you could say, all right, maybe they pulled the plug too soon. But I'm sorry, the way the Jets collapsed in 2008, I was all about getting rid of Mangini. And you can't say it wasn't the right move because Rex came in and was the Jet coach for 6 years. And they had success with Rex, obviously. And even Todd Bowles, who stunk to the high heavens, he got 4 seasons. All right. Adam Gase should never been hired, right? He should have got 1 year. So I don't care if they got rid of him after 2 seasons. It was the right move. Let's not act like the Jets just fire coaches at will here. They're going to give Saleh, to me, minimum 3 seasons. Unless the Jets are horrendous next year, Saleh's the coach for at least 3 years in my mind. So, like, this idea that the Jets just hire and fire guys really quickly, they don't. In their history, they do not do that, at least in the last 20 years. Al Groh left on his own, all right? Herm Edwards was here for a significant amount of time. Mangini got 3 years. Rex got 6 years. Bowles got 4 years. Gase never should have been hired. So I excuse that decision in the first place. Oh, they fired him after 2 years. Should have been gone after 1 year. He never should have got the job. We need a safety in the second round. You could also spend money on safety. I think what a lot of people forget with the safety position for the Jets, LaMarcus Joyner was supposed to be a safety for them or a nickel corner for them. He was going to factor in that secondary. He got hurt. And then obviously Marcus May getting hurt really put this team in a tough spot. They do certainly need to address safety, but I'm not drafting a safety in the top 5. I'm not doing that again. Mike McCagnon drafted safeties in the first and second round. That's how you know you're an incompetent GM, when you're using 2 high picks on safeties. Horrendous. Let's see. Mangini was an awesome talent evaluator. They should bring him back for scouting. Yes, he was. Eric Mangini did an excellent job assisting Mike Tannenbaum with the draft. But the only pick they missed on was, I hate to say this name, Jet fans, cover your ears, Vernon Golston. Yikes. But Mangini was very good. I mean, Mangini was a part of that 06 draft, 07 with Revis. Obviously, the 2009 draft was good with Dustin Keller. And, actually that was, at that point, that was Rex Ryan. But you get the point. That was like the 06 really through 08 drafts for the Jets were, relatively speaking, pretty strong. And Mangini had a lot to do with that. Dean writes in, Jets will pick 4th even if they win 2 more games. Who are they catching? Well, you got the Giants. How many more games are the Giants going to win? You obviously have the Philadelphia Eagles. How many more games are they going to win? I mean, this head-to-head with the Eagles on Sunday coming up will be big for the Jets. And then, you look at Chicago. Is Andy Dalton going to keep playing quarterback for them? Is Justin Fields going to come back? Like, they're not going to win that many more games. And I think the Jets could actually catch Carolina. I don't think Carolina is any good. Like, right now, Carolina's 5-7. I'm not saying they will. It's not impossible, though. And Seattle, I think, will win a couple more games, too. I think the reality is the Jets are definitely getting 2 picks in the top 10, which if you would have told any Jet fan before the year started, hey, your pick and the Seattle pick is going to be in the top 10, would you sign for that? I think 223 of you that are watching the show right now would have said, hell yeah, Jake, we would. And I think everyone watching it afterwards would probably agree as well. So whether it's 2 picks in the top 5 or 2 in the top 10, the Jets are still set up for success going forward. The AZN Mike writes in, what chances do you give the Jets to beat the Eagles, depending on who the quarterback is between Hurts and Minshew? I would give the Jets a good chance to beat the Eagles. It's a winnable game. I mean, this is a Jets team that has wins over the Titans and Bengals this year. Asking them to now beat the Eagles, maybe with their backup quarterback, or the Eagles playing a team that just lost to the Giants, is not asking for that much. It's really not. Whether it's Hurts and or Minshew, the Jets have a chance to win this game. This is not a Super Bowl III type of upset if the Jets were to win on Sunday. I don't think the Jets should be as significant of an underdog as they are in this game. Just like I didn't think they should have been a 3-point underdog against the Texans. If you watch the show, I told you the Jets were going to win the game, and it's a joke that they were actually, laying 3 points to the Texans. But Vegas is going to continue to put the Jets as an underdog, and hopefully that fires them up, and they could use that as some motivation if they need it. The Art of Pimpin' writes in, why hasn't Quinn been playing more? I'm sure I saw somewhere that he hasn't played many snaps. He's played a lot. That's just the system the Jets run where they rotate defensive linemen. Quinn Williams had an excellent season. He's 1 sack away from his career high. He's likely going to get to 10 sacks by the end of the year. I believe he's going to make his first Pro Bowl for sure this season. Quinn Williams has been excellent. Quincy Williams, his brother, has also played really well. That was a really good find off waiver wire by Joe Douglas. Honestly, two of the better defensive players on the Jets were waiver wire pickups. Quincy Williams off from the Jaguars off waivers, and John Franklin Myers from the Rams off waivers. You don't think the Rams are kicking themselves, by the way, that they let JFM go? Imagine a defensive line with John Franklin Myers, Aaron Donald, and now Von Miller. Maybe they wouldn't have lost 3 in a row if they had JFM. Just a thought. Nick writes in, I really think the focus in this draft should be the offensive line. It's all about protecting Zach Wilson. Yeah, no doubt. I think they'll continue to add to the offensive line, Nick. The one thing I'd say, though, is this. It's not like Joe Douglas hasn't tried, right? The Jets, who never draft offensive linemen in the first round, they haven't done it since 2006. Well, Joe Douglas comes on, and his first 2 drafts as Jets GM, he takes Mekhi Becton at left tackle, and he trades up to get Elijah Vera Tucker. So they're trying to build up this offensive line. The Jets have just been so bad for so long that you can't fix it all in just 2 drafts. So I would say that, yeah, they should continue to draft offensive linemen. They got 7 picks in the first 4 rounds. I'd hope that at least 1 or 2 of those picks are offensive linemen. Specifically, with the 4 picks in the top 41, I would hope that at least 1, if not 2 of those picks are offensive linemen, whether it be tackle, center, or guard. They could determine that, but I think they're going to certainly address the O-line. And let's also give credit to Joe Douglas. Morgan Moses, George Fant, they've been pretty good for this team. They really have. They have not been a liability. The liability was Greg Van Roten. You could put that on Douglas, but at least he went out there and tried to rectify that situation by getting the right guard from the Chief in Tardif, who's played really well, right? He's been good. He's graded out really well according to Pro Football Focus. So, I mean, right guard was a weakness. He did his best at the trade deadline rather than tank for the draft pick or get Zach Wilson killed. He at least tried to address that need. You can't fix everything in the limited amount of time Douglas has had. I just got to continue to preach patience and hope that he continues to hit on his picks. Green Chimp writes in, what's more likely to happen? Jets draft Stingley or the center in Linderbaum? I would say it's more likely just based on some early mocks. And look, we all know how this works. This is going to change a lot. It's going to change after the combine. It's going to change after the final draft order is set. It's going to change after free agency. Gun to my head, though, I think it's more likely that Stingley is a Jet than Linderbaum, just based on where the Jets are going, because I don't think Linderbaum's going to go in the top 5. Now, if he goes 6 or 7, I would say, well, I have no issue if the Jets were to take him at 5. But I got to see where the Jets end up. If the Jets have 2 picks in the top 10 and one of those picks was on the center from Iowa, I'd be all about it. Let's see. What else are you guys thinking here? We'll take a couple more. Big thank you to everyone who's watching the show. I ask if you're tuned in live right now, do me a favor, like the video right down below. That's the thumbs up icon. It's free. It doesn't do anything. It just helps YouTube show the video to more people. YouTube's algorithm is more likes, subscribers, and comments, the more people will have the video show up on their home feed. That's why I'm always harping for likes on the video and asking those new to the channel to help me continue to grow the channel, and subscribe down below. Let's see. Van Roten has no trade value, and we're likely stuck with him until 2023. I don't know about that. Not that he has trade value, but I'm going to look up his contract for you right now. Unless there's guaranteed money that is so significant, which I doubt there is, I highly doubt that. I mean, Greg Van Roten signed a 3-year, $10.5 million contract with the Jets. He has, let's see, a dead cap hit of $0 for next year. Guess who will not be a Jet next year? Greg Van Roten. All right, pretty simple. He doesn't have a dead cap hit. The Jets could cut him with nothing. It was basically a 2-year commitment. That's just classic football contract, right? Oh, 3-year deal. Well, it's actually only 2, and then year 3, no guaranteed money. See you later. Let's see. Brian writes in that he'd like to trade back on one of the first rounders to stock up for the 3-year plan. Yeah, Brian, we talked about this as an option earlier in the video. Just because the Jets right now have the 4th and 5th overall pick, 1, doesn't mean they'll end up being there because things could change between now and the end of the season. And 2, the reality is the Jets could certainly trade back from one of those picks and get even more picks in this year's draft or in the 2023 draft. Like, continue to have multiple first-round picks, continue to have draft capital. The reality is it's not a great quarterback draft. So quarterbacks might not go in the top 5. But if the Jets have pick 7 and they have pick 8, guess what? Maybe Pittsburgh wants to come up from number 15 to go and get a quarterback. Maybe the Washington football team wants to come up from number 17 to go and get a quarterback. Denver could come up from the teens to go get a quarterback. Atlanta could come up from the early teens to get a quarterback. Carolina right now has the 10th pick. You don't think they'd move up to number 5 to get a guy they like if they can't get, Deshaun Watson or someone else in free agency? Like, the Jets have options here. Since quarterbacks might not go in the top 5 because it's a down quarterback year, that doesn't mean they might not go in the 5 through 10 range or the 10 through 15 range. If that's where the Jets are and a team wants to come up to get a quarterback, the Jets could do what the Giants did last year, where they moved out of pick 11, picked up an extra 1 next year because the Bears wanted to come up and draft Justin Fields with the 11th overall pick. The options for the Jets are limitless, and that's what's so exciting about this process here. Quarterbacks will help the Jets because teams that are desperate for a quarterback will be willing to move up to get one of them, and that puts the Jets in a great position going forward. Let's see here. Lindenbaum will be the best center ever. Look, the Jets have had a pretty good run on center, so I would not mind if Linderbaum joined Kevin Mawai and Nick Mangold in that center heritage for the New York Jets. When do we see Amendola getting cut? I don't know, man. Let me tell you, I was screaming a lot of expletives at NRG on Sunday when he missed that kick, man. It was so predictable, too. I was saying to the Texan fan that I was at the game with to my right, I'm like, he's going to shank this. He sucks. Sure enough, we all know what happened. I was shocked he hit the 37-yarder that put the Jets up 21-14. I thought he was going to miss that too. I don't know. I think Joe Douglas is a good GM. I don't know what he's waiting for. Get rid of Amendola, man. Anyone else will do better. Let's see. QBs will still go in the top 10. QBs always get overdrafted, Chris, so I agree. They might not go in the top 5, but they could go in the top 10. And if there's demand at the quarterback spot, there'll be teams that want to move up and get one of these said quarterbacks. So when that happens, that opens the door for the Jets to obviously move back and accumulate more picks if that's the direction they want to go into. Make no mistake about that. Biggest positional need, corner, offensive line, linebacker. That's what I would say. Safety as well. But safety, not as big of a need in my mind as getting a shutdown corner, not as big of a need as going out there and getting a stud offensive lineman. The greatness for the Jets is you have $50 million in cap space and you have 4 picks in the top 41. You could address all the needs they have. Make no mistake about it. With that being said, I want to thank all of you who took time to watch today's video. My name is Jake Asman. I host the Jake Asman Show here on YouTube. We post videos every day talking Jets. Throughout the week, I also post some videos talking Yankees, Knicks, Mets, Islanders, basically all things New York sports. I have a local radio show on ESPN Houston here from 3 to 7 p.m. I also have a national show on SportsMap Radio every Saturday from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern time. We talk a lot of New York sports on that show. So if you're new to the channel, do me a favor and subscribe. You could follow me on social media. My social handle on Twitter and Instagram is just my name. At Jake Asman is where you can find me. You also could help me out by liking the video. There's 200 of you watching right now. Thank you so much. Please like this video down below. Thumbs up icon is the way to do exactly that. And real quick, for those just tuning in, don't forget, if you need something for the holidays, I highly recommend that you purchase the Lawnmower 4.0 from Manscaped. Manscaped offers that precision engineered tools for your family jewels. Head over to manscaped.com and you'll get 20% off and free shipping when you use my promo code. The promo code's ASMAN. That's ASMAN at manscaped.com. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job. Manscaped.com. Thanks to everyone who took time to watch today's video. JETS, 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 Jets. Thank you, Jamal Adams, for continuing to lose football games with the Seattle Seahawks. Back with more throughout the week. Have a good Tuesday, everybody, and I'll talk to you guys soon. See ya.